Welcome to Canadian Bird Nerd. I'm Jessica, and today I want to go over the various types of bird feeders and bird seed that are going to be helpful in attracting birds to your backyard throughout all the seasons we see here in Canada. Many of these feeders and types of seeds are going to be dependent on which area of Canada that you live in. This is also going to depend on the time of year because throughout Canada, most of our birds are migratory, meaning that they come up to Canada for breeding season and return back down south for the remainder of the year. So all of our feeders and types of seeds might depend on those types of birds visiting our feeders. Tube feeders are one of the most popular ways to bring birds right into your backyard. Simple, practical, and versatile, they are a favorite for bird enthusiasts and feathered friends alike. These feeders are designed with multiple feeding ports along a central tube, making it easy for several birds to eat at once, without too much competition. They're perfect for attracting small songbirds like finches, chickadees, sparrows, and nuthatches. Depending on the seed you fill them with, you can also welcome larger birds like grosbeaks and other colorful species. When choosing a tube feeder, there are a few things to consider. First, look at the number of feeding ports. More ports means more birds at once. Second, think about the seed type. Smaller ports are great for Niger seed, while larger ports work best with sunflower seeds or mixed blends. A sturdy design is also important. Metal perches and bases help resist squirrel damage, and weather-resistant materials keep the seed fresh. Finally, make sure the feeder is easy to take apart and clean. Healthy birds depend on clean feeders. I especially like these Aspect brand tube feeders. They have a quick release on the bottom which makes them very easy to clean. Their ports are all made out of a brass type material, and you can buy these optional tray feeders that attach to the bottom of the feeders that collect any seed that would otherwise drop on the ground. Ask any backyard birder and they'll tell you squirrels can be just as much of a challenge as they are entertaining. While they may look cute, squirrels are notorious for raiding bird feeders. They can empty a tube feeder in a single afternoon, chew through plastic parts, and scare away the very birds you are hoping to see. It's no wonder why so many people worry about how to keep squirrels out of their feeders. The good news is, there are smart solutions. With the right design, you can make sure your seed goes to the birds, not the squirrels. That's where squirrel-proof feeders come in. One of the most trusted options is the Brome 1024 Squirrel Buster Plus. This feeder is designed to outsmart even the craftiest of squirrels. Its weight-sensitive mechanism means that when a squirrel climbs on, the feeding ports close instantly. Birds, being much lighter, can feed with no problem at all. Another great feature is its durability. Made with true-proof materials, this feeder is built to last through years of use and weather. It also disassembles easily, making it simple to clean and fill. And for even more protection, there's an optional dome you can add on top. The dome not only shields the feeder from rain and snow, helping to keep the seed dry, but it also adds an extra layer of defense against squirrels that might try to jump down from above. Brome backs the Squirrel Buster Plus with their lifetime care guarantee. If any part fails due to defects, they'll provide replacements or even replacement of the product at their discretion. Each feeder comes with clear instructions for assembly, disassembly, and cleaning. If you ever find the instructions aren't quite enough, Brome also provides helpful videos online that walk you through every step. These feeders here each have 12 ports on them. I usually only put these ones out in the winter months. By then, most of the bigger birds like the red-winged blackbirds, grackles, and starlings have already migrated south. What I'm left with are the smaller birds that stick around like the chickadees, house finches, and redpolls that come down during the winter months. These feeders work really well for them because the perches are smaller, just the right size for little songbirds, and with 12 ports, more birds can fit at once, which is especially important in the cold months. It gives them a chance to conserve energy while still getting the food they need to stay warm and healthy throughout the winter. Sometimes the challenge isn't just about what birds you want to attract, it's about keeping the bigger and more aggressive visitors out. That's where cage feeders come in. These are essentially tube feeders surrounded by a protective wire cage. The openings are large enough for small birds to slip through, but they keep out larger birds like grackles, red-winged blackbirds, or starlings, as well as squirrels that might otherwise dominate the feeder. Cage feeders are a great option if you want to give the little birds a safe place to eat in peace. I like to fill these feeders with a medium chipped sunflower seed. It's perfect for smaller songbirds, easier for them to eat, less waste, and keeps the chickadees, finches, and other little birds coming back all day long. Sunflower seeds are a favorite for almost every backyard bird, but how you offer them can make a huge difference. Shelled sunflower seeds, also known as sunflower hearts, are a great option because the shells are removed, so birds don't waste energy cracking them open, and they're less messy around the feeder and easier for small birds to handle. These are the Wood Link 6-port cage feeders with a roof. I really like the design of these feeders. The cage keeps out the larger birds, while these smaller songbirds can slip right through to the feeder inside. The roof not only adds a nice look, but it helps protect the seed from the weather, making the whole feeder very practical and durable. Black oil sunflower seeds are probably the single best all-around food you can offer at a bird feeder. They have a thin shell that's easy for most birds to crack, and the kernel inside is packed with oil, making them high in fat and energy, exactly what birds need. Black oil sunflower seeds attract a wide variety of species. Chickadees, nuthatches, sparrows, finches, grosbeaks, and juncos all love them. Larger birds like blue jays and even woodpeckers will take them as well. They can be offered in almost any type of feeder: tube feeders, hopper feeders, tray feeders, or even scattered on the ground. If you're going to only use one type of seed, black oil sunflower seed is the most reliable choice for bringing birds to your yard. Striped sunflower seeds are similar in appearance to black oil sunflower seeds. They're a little bit bigger, but they've got a much thicker shell. That makes them tougher to crack, so they're less attractive to small birds like sparrows and finches, who prefer easier to open options. On the flip side, these are a great choice for birds with stronger bills. Blue jays, grosbeaks, and some woodpeckers are often seen eating this type of seed. Next are the nut feeders. I really like using this brome buster nut feeder. Just like their seed feeders, it's designed to be completely squirrel-proof. It's built with chew-proof materials. It comes apart easily for cleaning with no tools. It's designed to be completely squirrel-proof. The weight-sensitive mechanism shuts the ports when the squirrel tries to get on, but lighter birds like woodpeckers, nuthatch, chickadees, and other small birds can feed without any trouble. I also use a simple mesh nut feeder, and honestly, I like it a little more than the brome feeder when I'm feeding peanut halves. The mesh design makes it a bit more challenging for bigger birds and squirrels to enter it quickly, so the smaller birds get more of a chance to feed, and I notice the woodpeckers stick around a little bit longer. Mixed nuts are versatile. You can use them in either feeder with the same success. Moving on to another type of nut feeder that is equally loved by birds and squirrels alike, there are peanut wreaths, which I like to fill with whole peanuts in the shell. Blue jays especially love them, and it is fun to watch them pry the nuts out. But keep in mind, wreaths will also attract magpies, crows, and of course, squirrels. So they're not always the best choice if you're trying to limit the bigger visitors. I usually put these nut feeders out in the summertime when it's too warm to use suet. Suet can spoil in the heat, but nuts provide the same kind of high energy food without going bad. The peanut wreath you can leave out year-round. Then, once the weather cools down, I'll switch back to suet feeders, which are especially valuable in the colder months when birds need those extra calories to stay warm. Some of the best DIY feeders that the whole family can get involved in are seed bell feeders and pinecone feeders. Seed bells can be pretty fun to make. Combine your favorite bird seeds like sunflower seeds, millet, and some chopped up nuts with some unflavored gelatin and light corn syrup. Press the mix into a bell-shaped mold or cookie cutters. Make sure you leave a hole for some string. After a few hours of letting it cool down, it'll be ready to hang outside. And one of the easiest options are pine cone feeders. You simply spread peanut butter into the bracts of a pine cone, roll it in birdseed, and hang it with a string. Chickadees, nuthatches, and woodpeckers all love these feeders. It's fun, rustic, and especially great for kids to help with. Red-skin peanut halves are one of my favorite foods to put out for smaller songbirds and woodpeckers. Because they're already split, they're easy for birds to grab and eat without having to work too hard. Chickadees, nuthatches, finches, sparrows, and all the woodpeckers go for them. The red skin adds a little extra fiber and nutrients, and the halves don't go to waste the way whole peanuts sometimes can with smaller birds. They're also less likely to get carried off and cached, so you can enjoy watching the birds feed right at the feeder. For me, peanut halves are a simple, high-energy option that keeps the feeders busy all year long. A mixed nut variety is a fun option because it offers something for everyone. Different birds prefer different nuts, so a mix keeps the feeder busy with a wider range of visitors. Whole peanuts in the shell are a big favorite for birds like blue jays. Not only do they eat them, but they'll also cache them, tucking the peanuts away in tree bark, leaf piles, or the ground to save for later. It's especially common in the fall as they prepare for winter. Other birds and even squirrels will do the same, so it's fun to watch the natural behavior right in your own backyard. Hands down, my favorite suet feeder is the Broem Squirrel Buster Suet Feeder. Just like their other feeders, it's designed to keep squirrels out, and it does a great job at blocking bigger birds like magpies. That means the suet lasts longer and stays available for the birds you really want to attract. It holds 2 standard suet cakes, so you don't have to refill it as often, and you even have the option to offer 2 flavors at once. Like the other Broem feeders, it is also weight adjustable. You can dial the spring mechanism to exclude heavier birds and adjust accordingly. No crumbs go to waste either. Any falling suet lands in the built-in crumb port where smaller birds can enjoy the leftovers. As the suet gets consumed, the yellow trays advance downwards so birds can always reach them down to the very last bite. When a squirrel climbs on the feeder, its weight pulls the cage down and it instantly covers the suet cakes. The access ports are blocked so the squirrel can't get to the food. As soon as the squirrel jumps off, the cage resets, and the suet is open again for the birds. It's a simple but very effective way of keeping the suet for your birds you want while shutting out the ones you don't. Even with squirrel-proof feeders, where you put your feeder makes all the difference. Squirrels are incredible jumpers. They can leap up to 10 feet sideways and drop down from above, so it's important to position your feeders well away from trees, fences, or overhanging branches. There are various other types of suet feeders, such as this one made from recycled plastic. It has a sturdy cage built around it, and it is easy to clean. The recycled plastic construction makes it durable and weather resistant, so it holds up well year after year. This is a basic suet cage feeder, one of the most simplest and common styles. It's basically a wire cage that holds a single suet cake. You can hang it on its own, attach it to another feeder, hang it from a tree or a pole. Smaller birds and woodpeckers cling right to the cage while they feed, and it's an easy, inexpensive way to offer suet. The downside to standard cage-style suet feeders is that the bigger birds like starlings and even magpies can easily use them. That's where upside-down suet feeders come in. They're designed so only clinging birds like woodpeckers, chickadees, and nuthatches can feed comfortably, while the larger birds are discouraged. This is a homemade suet log feeder. It's just a section of log with holes drilled into it to hold suet. Because it looks and feels natural, it attracts a wide variety of birds. Woodpeckers, chickadees, nuthatches, and lots of other small songbirds. But it's not just the little guys that like it. Magpies and even squirrels will come too, since it's an open design that makes it easier for them to grab suet. That's just part of the trade-off with a natural style feeder. I like using the log feeder because it blends into the yard better than wire cages. It's inexpensive to make, and it gives the birds a natural way to enjoy suet just like they would on a tree in the wild. There are various types of suet products on the market. Suet cakes are one of the best high-energy foods that you can put out for birds, especially in the colder months. They're made from rendered fat, often beef, blended with ingredients like seeds, nuts, fruits, or even insects. That fat provides concentrated calories that birds burn quickly to stay warm and active throughout the winter. My most used suet product is actually spreadable suet. It's soft like peanut butter and you can smear it onto just about anything. Tree bark, feeders, even into my log feeders. It's a fun way to mimic natural feeding since birds like woodpeckers, chickadees, and nuthatches naturally search for insects hidden in bark. One brand I really like is Mill Creek Seeds Canadian Suet Spread. It's made here in Canada with all natural ingredients. The texture makes it very easy to work with. I use it in each one of my suet feeders and the birds go absolutely crazy for it. Suet also comes in different shapes beyond the standard cakes. Suet balls are a versatile option. You can use them in special suet ball wire feeders that are designed specifically to hold these round shapes. They can also be placed in suet logs that have appropriately sized holes. This flexibility means you can offer suet in different ways depending on what feeders you have on hand. Hopper feeders are one of the most classic styles of feeders you'll see in a backyard. They look a little bit like a house, with a roof to keep the seed dry and a tray at the bottom where the birds feed. As the birds eat, more seeds drop down from the hopper above, so there's always food available. I like hopper feeders because they hold a good amount of seed, which means less refilling, and they attract an incredible variety of birds. You'll often see finches, chickadees, nuthatches, and juncos using them. Larger visitors like grosbeaks and jays will also stop by, even the larger birds like magpies. Truthfully, almost all birds and even squirrels will happily take advantage of a hopper feeder if they can. There are some hoppers that are offered in a squirrel-proof design, whether made from wood, recycled plastic, or metal. Hopper feeders are a reliable, all-purpose choice that works well in every season. Tray feeders are the simplest style of feeder you can put out. It's basically an open platform that holds seed, nuts, or even fruit. And because it's so open, just about any bird will use it. The downside is that they are also easily accessible for squirrels, and the seed is more exposed to rain and snow. Tray feeders are one of the best ways to attract the widest variety of birds to your yard. And they're especially fun because you get a great, unobstructed view of the birds while they feed. Another great way to use tray feeders is to place them closer to the ground. Many birds are ground feeders such as sparrows and juncos, grosbeaks, and even blackbirds. They'll be more comfortable feeding closer to the ground. Tray feeders come in a few different styles and each has its own use. You can also get hanging trays which dangle from a hook or a pole. These give birds a little more security up off the ground and a bit harder for large animals to reach. Some tray feeders even come with roofs or mesh bottoms. The roof helps keep the seed dry in the rain or snow, while the mesh lets the water drain through so the food doesn't spoil. The most important thing with tray feeders is keeping your seed dry, making sure the tray has drainage or even a roof because bad seed can turn into moldy seed very soon and make birds very sick. When it comes to bird seed blends, it's important to pay attention to what's really in a bag. A lot of the cheap mixes are loaded with fillers like red milo, wheat, oats, or even dyed grains, things most birds won't eat. They just kick them out of the feeder and all that wasted seed ends up on the ground. That's why I stick with quality, no filler blends. The Happy Garden mix from the Urban Nature store is a good example. It's made with seeds birds actually want to eat and attracts a wide variety of birds. When looking for a quality seed blend, keep an eye on the ingredients. Look for mixes that have black oil sunflower seed or sunflower hearts along with peanuts. Those alone will cover most of the birds you'll see in your yard. You can also add in other good seeds depending on the birds that are around. For example, safflower is a great choice if you have cardinals in your area. And white proso millet is another solid option, especially if you want to attract ground feeding birds like sparrows, juncos, and doves. I also like making my own blends because it gives me full control over what I'm offering and which birds I'm attracting. My go-to mix is really simple, just sunflower hearts and chopped peanuts. Even though it's simple, it's one of the most effective mixes I use. Chickadees and finches love it. The blackbirds and grackles go after it too. Honestly, it attracts just about everything. If there's one blend I can count on to draw a crowd, it's this one. Sometimes I'll mix it up by adding in some white proso millet. That's a favorite for ground feeders, birds like sparrows, juncos, and doves that prefer to stay low and feed from a tray. Adding millet into a blend helps bring in those species that don't usually visit the hanging feeders, so it really broadens the variety of birds around the year. In the spring months, I like to put out mealworms for the birds that have migrated back and started nesting. Mealworms are packed with protein, which makes them an excellent food source for adults raising chicks. Birds like robins, wrens, chickadees will all take them, and it's fun to watch them flying back and forth carrying mealworms to their nests. But it's not just the smaller songbirds. Grackles and starlings also love mealworms, and they'll easily eat as many as they can. That's why I usually only put out a small amount, just enough to give the nesting birds an extra boost without letting the bigger flocks clean them out. Hummingbird feeders come in a few different styles. The most common are the bottle style, with a reservoir above the feeding ports, and the saucer style, which holds nectar in a shallow dish below the ports. Both work well. Saucer feeders are usually easier to clean, while the bottle feeders often hold more nectar. Making your own nectar is simple. 4 parts of water to 1 part of white sugar. No red dye is needed. Place feeders in a shady spot and change the nectar every couple of days in the summer, and clean thoroughly each time. Backyard birding is one of those simple joys that anyone can enjoy. It doesn't take much, a few feeders, some good food, and a little patience, but the rewards are incredible. One of the most important things to remember is feeder care. Birds rely on us to keep feeders safe and healthy, so cleaning them regularly is essential. Wash feeders with warm water and a gentle soap and scrub them every week or 2, and always clean them right away if you see mold or spoiled food. It's also important to keep your feeders well stocked. Birds burn a lot of energy every day, and when they find a reliable food source, they'll keep coming back. But if a feeder sits empty for too long, they'll move on to look for food elsewhere. By keeping feeders full, you'll help make your yard a dependable stop for birds. Another key is patience. If you don't see birds at your feeders right away, don't be discouraged. It can take days or even weeks for birds to discover a new feeder, but once they do, word spreads quickly. Most of all, remember that bird feeding should be fun. Whether you're filling a hopper feeder, putting out suet for a woodpecker, or watching hummingbirds hover at a nectar feeder, it's about enjoying the moment and connecting with nature right outside your door. So keep your feeders clean, keep them full, and give the birds a little time to find you. In return, they'll bring life, color, and song to your backyard all year long. Happy birding!